Boa noite. We're continuing on where we left off. Background music is CBL, carbon-based life forms, derelicts. So, I think we determined that we need to implement the loading the stored JSON from a file. So let's do that. We'll stop right here. So let's see where we were going to do that. Didn't we add to the script? Yes, we do a lazy load in the script stuff. So I'm just gonna, well, I guess I can keep this stuff open. No reason not to. We don't need this header file. Line set, core data. Don't think we put it in here, did we? No. Yeah, here it is. Yes. Script core data. All right, let's close that out. Sync stuff we'll look at some other time. Okay, load line sets from stored NS dictionary files. We're going to delegate to the Kotlin side, the shared side, the rush side. So we'll probably end up calling it app storage, KT. Let's take a look. So we're going through all the blames. I think we're done with that. Yeah. Let's close this out. Okay. We'll keep this this little guy open. So what do we got? App storage. Here's the file in. Yep. Here's the file in Vim instead of Android Studio. And I think we're just going to say load string from file. Or actually, to make this the inverse the other way, shouldn't we say load file as string? Why is my phone freaking out? Okay. Store string as file, load file as string. I think the reason I don't want to say load string from file is that that could imply, you know, a string from a file. We're basically saying this entire file is a string. So yeah, let's do that. That's fine. Store and load, load and store, load and save, store and restore. I think load and store is fine. And just sort this alphabetically. Music's a little loud, isn't it? Sometimes the music's a little more ambient. This one's a little active. Tone it down here. I'll listen back and figure out if it's too loud at some point. Okay, so in this case, this is an effectful function, so it's inside effects, under side, because it's accessing the environment. And we're returning the app mutant, which is the modified state of the app, effectively. But we also need to return the actual string itself. So in this case, instead of passing a string, we're getting a string back. Now, normally I just return the app mutant, but in this case, I want to return both. I'm taking an app mutant in, I'm taking a file spec, I'm going to return an app mutant, and I'm also going to return a string. I prefer to return a single type rather than doing like a, well, I guess I could do a tuple. I mean, what's the difference? Not that much of a difference. First, we're going to go ahead and, obviously this is going to delegate to the platform side because we're just going to bounce back for now to iOS and let it implement it. So let file as string. And we are going to return. Now in Kotlin, we have to say pair. If we want to. They don't really have tuple support directly, right? Now, I haven't been paying a lot of attention to Kotlin lately, so it is possible that they have made changes to support tuples. In fact, let's find out. Let's go Kotlin tuples. Now I'm just doing a Brave search. I'm not using chat Gipit. Here's a tuple with examples. Let's see what they got. Tuple triple. Yeah, see, triple and pair. We could return a list, but I think in this case a pair is the way to go. Yeah, second example, we use pairs, parent int string. Yeah, I'm used to using this. All right. That's fine. We'll just use pair for now. Here's more how to use tuples in Kotlin. Use tuples, pair, pair, triple, pair, pair, string int, pair, triple, triple pair, triple pair. So we're just going to do that. Now, oh, I don't have the platform function defined yet. So let's just go ahead and copy that signature. We're going to add it to platform functions. And it's load. We put everything here in alphabetical order. Oh, there we go. It's a var, val. One file is string, app mutant. File spec string. We don't actually have to put the name in here. It returns this. I guess we put a space there, and let's just copy this. Notice I say this and that a lot. When people don't see what you're looking at or pointing at, it's very unclear what this and that refer to. I think in this case I want to say, I think there's a constructor without the uppercase, pair am, and we're just going to do a null string. This is the default implementation of the platform functions, of this platform function. This is a function that takes an app mutant and a string, returns a pair. It's not liking my pair thing here. I'm sure I've used this elsewhere before in here. So I'll do a find grep, my own little macro. We were briefly interrupted, but now I'm resumed. Pair. Let's see where else I've used pair in here. Oh my God. Yeah, all the generated files. Stop the madness. Source. Let's try this. Mutant has a pair. No. Yes. Yeah. No, there's some interesting information there. Swift side of KMM requires pair types to be classes. Huh. Let's see how this is used. So there's pair in here somewhere. Kotlin pair. App mutant lambda class. Swift side of KMM requires pair types to be classes. Yeah. Did I make a pair class? I don't know why I put that comment in there. Well, no. Let's just see if we can just construct it. Sounds like we can just construct it. Seems fair. All right, let's try that. So we have a default implementation. This is going to delegate on the Kotlin side. It's not implemented. And technically, I don't have to implement it. But I think if I don't declare it in here, I am going to get some kind of error. Let's see what happens. Should complain, right? Or we just get the default. Oh, this is trying to do the iOS side. Let's just do the Android side first. Android side first. Probably going to complain. Nope. Because I have a default, it doesn't complain. Yeah. Yeah, this is the Android implementation of app platform functions, which is a structure. The members are all functions. And when you construct in Kotlin, you can specify data class, i.e. structure members by name. And if you don't, you get a default initialization if it has a default initialization, and we obviously added our default initialization. But I'll go ahead and put a placeholder in there for it, just like I did for store string as file. So we'll do the same thing here. Actually, let's just copy what we have. Well, it really needs to look like this. So we just have a stub for the Android side because we're not doing Android right now. We'll actually implement this in iOS. And we're saying load file as string. Oh, it actually gave me the autocomplete. I almost never use autocomplete. I know I'm a troglodyte for not doing that, but I kind of like to think things through. And it does take a file spec. And what it returns is going to be at this point a pair. And this this closure lambda here is doing type inference, right? It's going to infer the return type from what I actually provide. I'm stating the obvious. So that should be compatible. Just returning the incoming append with a nothing string. So when we load it from file, we get nothing on the Android side. All right, there we go. Good. Easy enough. So back to where we were. App storage KT. Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. Because I'm storing an individual line set in individual files. This is going to be retrieving an entire collection of line sets. So I need to make it so that this needs to be a collection. I was thinking of a single one, but no, I'm going to make this a collection. That makes more sense because I'm going to pass a file spec with a meta, what do we say, meta characters? Wildcard. I just can't remember. That's what we call it under shell scripts. We call them wildcards. It's basically a meta character wildcard. Can't use that word meta. Now some company owns the word. So we're going to load files as strings. Plural. And we're going to return a list. Do we care? okay, what actual file was read. We're probably going to, and it's going to make sense in a second, because we're going to pass in a spec that basically says, give me all the line sets for a particular script ID. So script ID is going to be specified in the file spec itself. And then it's going to use a wildcard for the line set identifier, which right now is identified by dates. But that date is going to be inside the content. So we know we're doing a query basically for all lines of a given script. So I don't really care to bring it back. I think for now we'll just keep it simple. We'll bring back all the strings that we get. Yeah. So again, we need to rename this, load files as strings. Store a single string as a file, we'll load files as strings. Back to app platform, this is load files as strings. It's still a pair, but the actual value returned in the pair is going to be a list. List string. So now instead of returning a null, I'm just going to return an empty list. If I can find the right keys on the keyboard. So this is going to be empty list. And the type inference will match that to the type. And for the stub, we're going to do the same thing. Yep. There we go. Load files as strings. And we're going to return an empty list. Now what's interesting is type inference, well, it's going to match what's expected because this has this member has a declared type. The type inference can be smart enough to say what the declared type match, it should match, so it should expect that, it should work. Okay, so load files as strings. Let's see if this compiles. Now keep in mind we're compiling this just for Android. Android doesn't care. It's not calling anything at this point. We don't care. But we have the basic thing in place. All right, so we're going to get back a list. I'm pretty sure the lists come back as arrays. So we're going to say load files as strings. And the app mutant. Ooh, app mutant, app mutant, app mutant. Okay. So this is an example of this whole issue of the app mutant, this singleton that represents the entire mutable state of the application. And it's not being passed in. So we are going to grab it from the global. I know it's ugly, but this is kind of the paradigm for now. So we're going to say app mutant kt global app mutant. I believe that's what it is. And I will put this on a separate line. And we're going to have a file spec. So that file spec, now that's right, are we in Swift? No, we're in Objective-C. Yuck. So Objective-C, how did we do the string interpolation? Well, I know because I had to do it in the actual file that processes the JSON. Here we go. It's going to be in here. This is it. NS string with format. Okay, so this is exactly what we're looking for. This is how we're writing it out. So this is how we're going to read it in. But in one case, we're going to actually put a wildcard in here. And hopefully when we go out and we do a directory list, simply by passing a wildcard character in for the line set, we'll get a collection of files, and then we'll be able to read the strings in from the individual files. I'm assuming that's going to work. So as you can see, we could basically just copy this block here, except we're going to make a little change on it. And script ID, we're going to need the cloud line set. This is a date flag. We don't need that because we're going to wildcard it. So back to where we were. Here we go. Paste. So somewhere in here we have script. Well, we're in script, so I guess this is going to be self. I don't know if I could say self dot or I have to put the self in brackets. I always forget the, oh, self dot seems to work. Yeah, self dot script ID, I can see it right there. This is doing a lookup set object. Anyway, I complained about Objective-C enough. Let's just assume this works. Script ID, in this case though, instead of saying created, we're actually going to put in a star. So we only need, we don't need that. And this is going to give us a it's going to give us this pair that comes back with the app mutant in the list. Now, I can actually just compile this right now and see what happens. Should work. Should compile. See how many errors we get. Oh, I don't like any of this. Well, I need to include this. So I obviously need app storage, I need app mutant. These modules should be able to get from imports up here. Should have an import in here because I'm using it in here. Why don't I see an import here? The import, would the import be in the header? Do I need to have this visible in the header? Interesting. Oh, right, I gotta go through the facade. Forgot about the facade. Objective-C can't just call, this is, I keep forgetting, this is Kotlin Multiplatform, right? Takes our Kotlin class, app storage, converts it into a namespace module of a kind. It actually puts it into an Objective-C header. Like there, we can see it right there. Gives it a Swift name. Swift can simply access it as a, but this is what it's going to look like to Objective-C. And that's interesting. Where's, oh, right there. There it is right there. This is why I really don't like C notation where the types are before the names, because then the names never sort together unless you have exactly the same type like this, then you can see all the names. Never liked that in C. I came from Pascal originally before I went to C. And Pascal has the types follow the names, as every modern language is now adapted, which always gave me the sense that C was a glorified macro assembler. It just kind of had the feel the way it was written. It is kind of a functional feel, because it's basically saying this is a type of value I'm getting. By the way, here's the name of it. I don't know. It's just kind of reverse. Not good. Okay. So I need to create the facade for this. For every Kotlin that I'm going to access from Objective-C, which hopefully I'm going to do to a minimum, I need to add it to the shared facade. I'd really like to rename this to Risha, because originally this whole thing was called shared, and then I renamed it to Risha, rehearsal shared, to be more specific. And here's the imports that we need, obviously. So yeah, it's kind of boilerplate on boilerplate. We are going to make this alphabetical. I wish I had Vim bindings in Xcode. Maybe there's a way to do that, but I just can't. I don't want to justify the time spent chasing this down. Okay, load strings as files, string file spec, and this is where it gets interesting. Load strings as files. I have to make this a separate function. Oh, this is where I'm wrapping the global app mutant. That actually is one of the nice things about the facade. I don't have to worry about this stuff. Yeah. I don't really want to contaminate this Objective-C code with the knowledge of the mutants and all that. It's kind of encapsulated inside these standalone functions. It would be nice if it could just call these functions directly, but it can't. It has to call through these static methods sitting on a class declaration, which really, these just delegate to standalone functions. I suppose I could just move the function definitions in here, but I prefer to keep things as standalone functions. I can understand them better that way. Yeah, I guess it's kind of unnecessary redundancy. Because these functions aren't getting called from Swift. They're only getting called from here. Oh well, something to think about. So here we have load strings as files. This is where we're going to do the call app mutant and all that. Okay, load and logged. Okay, so I've got this out of order here. That's why this looks a little weird. Should we resort this? Wait a minute. Why is there an on? Yeah, this got renamed, but didn't get renamed. That doesn't match. We need to do something about that. To do. This is a refactor. Rename. The same. Rename to the same. I'm not going to do it right now because I don't want to contaminate one cohesive set of changes with another. Besides, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to rename shared object, shared facade. I'll put it to doing that for that as well. I don't know why I put C4 Augustus. This whole file is mine. I didn't need to do that. Rename to, we're going to call this Rashad facade. Say that 50 times fast. Rashad facade, Rashad facade, Rashad facade, Rashad facade, Rashad facade, Rashad facade, facade. All right, so our load needs to go before that, even though it's a little bit. Wait a minute. I have the same thing here. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Shared on. Oh, I see what's going on here. So I prefix it. Shared load. Why did I do that? This is still out of order. I have to think about renaming these things, or where I even make these as separate. Is it because, well, this is Objective-C. This is an Objective-C annotation on a Swift class. This is a Swift. Putting too much thought into it. Let's just follow the pattern for now. So what we do when we're working on other people's code, we stick to the patterns in place. Unless there's a good reason to change them, but I am the guy that has to deal with this, so at some point I'll deal with that. All right, shared load strings as filed. Okay, now we're sorted. At least I resorted it. And I don't believe I have to say return because that's going to happen automatically, but I do have to have the return type here. So the return type for pair, now remember, pair becomes something else in, I think it's called Kotlin pair. And the way to know that is if I look at app mutant implementation, which should be in here somewhere. I think I should have a Kotlin pair in here somewhere. You know what I could use? Let's see what happens if I use Xcode instead. Let's say Kotlin pair. Because when we looked at the generated header, I think that's what it is. Let's do a find text in workspace. Well, this is the only place I've used it. Weird. There should be a Kotlin pair here. Actually, it should be right here. Rasha Kotlin pair. Rasha app mutant. But in Swift, it's going to be just Kotlin pair. It should have a thing called Swift name. I think it makes a class for this. There it is. Swift name Kotlin pair. Yeah. Yep. There is no pair equivalent. It would be nice if they convert it to tuples. I think Swift has tuples. Not sure. I'm not a Swift expert either. I'm not a Kotlin expert. I'm not an expert in any one particular programming language. I know how to use many, and when I don't know, I just figure it out. Because the concepts are the same, the names change, but the concepts are the same. What do I have the most experience in? Well, if you have to count up actual years of experience, it's going to be C++. But honestly, past C++ 11, I've not dove into any of the newer changes from the later standards. 17, I guess 23 is after that, right? Wasn't 20? No, isn't there a 20? I know there's a 17. Is there a 20, 23? So you go from 11 to 17. I don't know. Anyway, they've been adding a lot of stuff for functional programming, but the syntax is so cryptic, and the greatest weakness of C++ is the same problem with JavaScript. All it can do is add, it can never take anything away. So the language gets bigger because they add newer, better ways of doing things with leaving the old crappy ways still there. And that is the downside of any language that has a large base of code written in it, particularly legacy code that goes way back. Unless you're going to do the Python thing, Python 2 to 3, which in all honesty wasn't that big of a change, but boy did it almost destroy Python as a usable language. It's one of the reasons I picked Ruby over Python. I saw that great 2 and 3 divide right around, what was it, 2008, when I was picking up Ruby. And I was like, Python or Ruby, Python and Ruby. And at the time, Rails was all the rage. So I was like, okay, and I was very I didn't really like the syntax so much. I wasn't a fan of the tab. Tabs are significant. You know, sorry, not tabs, but indentation is significant. I think Go has a tabs are significant. Well, maybe they might have tabs are significant. They certainly have a standard where they actually use tabs instead of spaces, which I can't stand. But Python, yeah, it almost killed it. The whole chasm between 2 and 3 that still exists to this day, although mostly past 2, you still have the issue of typing in Python 3 versus Python 2. And, you know, what is it, 20 years later since that problem? And Python 3 has been around a long time. So, yeah, that's the price you pay for being a successful, widely used language. And one of the reasons I'm doing my own programming language is 2 things. One, I want to code exactly the way I want to code, so I'm doing it for myself, not for anybody else. And second, I don't have that problem. I can look at all languages that I'm considering to have good things in them, siphon out the good parts, put it into one language, and not have to worry about backward compatibility. And since probably no one else is going to use it from me, I can break it anytime I want. I'm not inventing from whole cloth. There's no need to do that. There are a lot of amazing ideas in a lot of programming languages, but they're here and there across the board, and I'm basically just going to distill a lot of the things that I think are good down into a concentrated form that works for me. And that is my completely self-centered approach to programming language design. And I just started that project. I'm not going to talk about it right now, but it's not something I put much time into anyway. It's just kind of a back burner thing. Back to this, Kotlin pair. Is this the first time we've actually used this on this side? I don't believe it. Find grep store. And actually, I want to be sitting in source when I do that because I'm searching all file types. So source, there we go. Find grep store. I'm just terrible on this MacBook Pro keyboard. On my main desktop, I use a MS Sculpt keyboard because I like the natural shape. And all the my fingers know how to find that quickly. But when I switch over to Mac, which is funny, I probably spend more time programming here than I do on that. I'm still using the laptop keyboard. What are we looking for? Kotlin pair. First time we've used it. Okay, what does the syntax look like? Kotlin pair. It's a generic. Okay. AKA in C++ would be called a template. So it's a parametric type. And what did we say it was? App mutant. Followed by a list of strings. Now, I think lists become arrays. And we're going to see if KMM actually does that conversion. Well, there's one way to know. Where we actually used this. We saw it. There's app mutant. NS array, NS string. Which I think when it gets Swiftified becomes Swift array notation Swift string. I don't think I have to put the NS in here. I think that's the signature as it looks like in Objective-C. So I think that should work. And we call this function. So we need a function. I think we decided we're going to resort this. I kind of don't like doing resorts in the middle of other changes because it's going to show up in the diff as moving something around. But I guess that's kind of trivial. Remember, we're prefixing this with shared, probably because these functions, well, these functions aren't really in a global namespace, are they? I don't know. We're going to have the same return type. And now we're going to do the call with global app mutant. Yeah. So this is one of the cases which currying I don't really have to do currying here because when I call with global app mutant, I just have to provide a function that takes the app mutant. This handles the get me the global and replace it in one call. It's kind of a convenience function. I haven't explained this in any of these videos. At some point I'll come around and can explain my thinking with the app mutant and how it works. But I can just do the same thing here. So yeah, I basically just return this and I'm going to get that. So this is our load. This is app storage, load, strings as files. A lot of marshalling going on, but this is the problem with the impedance between two different implementation languages. Three, really, when you think about it. It's Kotlin to Objective-C to Swift to Objective-C. I mean, the code that's calling this is going from Objective-C to Swift. Swift is really going through this generated header that's Objective-C to Kotlin. So it's making quite a few hops. Not something you'd want to do at 60 frames a second. Fortunately, I'm not doing that. Compile, let's see what you're going to gripe about now. Kotlin pair not in scope. Probably have to import it, I'm guessing. I'm doing the specific imports rather than just doing an import of the whole thing. I could import the whole thing, but for now I kind of like this. Kotlin pair. Try that. Try that. Mutant. This is a module, but this is not the app mutant itself. What if we just do this? We're gonna get any collisions? Oh, I said class. All right. String be a class type. Let's try. I'm just guessing that's going to work. That's not a class type? Do I have to say NS array in a string? Do I have to do that? Seriously? No, I can't believe that's what I've got to do. Yeah, that can't be right. What do I need to do in Swift to do that? Should I ask the wizard? Let's ask the wizard. Core data UI. I'm kind of not dealing with core data at this point. New chat. What is the Swift equivalent declaration for an array for a type that is an array of strings? Yeah, that's what I just did, dumbass. And I tried that as well. Apparently I can't do that. I didn't like it. So it's funny, I knew that I actually in my brain knew the syntax. Both syntaxes that were according to chat Gipit is valid. But it doesn't like it because it doesn't match the signature inside this Objective-C generated proxy Marshall mapper converter thingamabob. Kotlin pair. Oh, we're looking at it right here. Russia. Kotlin pair. See, I don't put in the stars for Swift because the reference is implied. So it's a reference to an array of string. Cannot specify non-generic type. What if I say array of NS string? Kotlin pair requires that it be requirement specified as B, any object with B equals array of N string. What am I missing here? Well, what's interesting is this works over here on pop global app mutant completion. Do I use this anywhere? Well, that's probably because these are just two references to two classes. It doesn't like it without a class. Why doesn't it like it without a class? Requires that array string be a class type. How is this not a class type? This is a instantiated parametric type. This should be as concrete as you need to be. Well, I could ask Chat Gipit about the Kotlin pair, but of course it doesn't know what the hell that is because this is unique to what I'm doing. Well, actually it might know because this is a KMM thing. Well, let's just ask it. Maybe it'll know. If I have a Kotlin multi-platform type pair, I'm just going to say string, comma, list of string. What is the Swift type signature for it? Wrong. As a tuple, but it's not. It could be. I like how it says it could be represented as a tuple, but it's not. KMM does not create a Swift tuple. Instead, it creates an Objective-C type Kotlin pair NS string, comma, NS array, NS string, with a reference to that. So then, what is the Swift signature for that? Wrong. The Swift compiler generates this message when trying to compile. Although technically not the tuple, because I'm not doing the tuple. I don't think this is true. Actually, let's try it. Let's try it with the tuple. I think that's bogus. But I'll be impressed. I'll give Chat Gipit points if that works. No. It can't be represented in Objective-C. Yeah, it doesn't like that. Wrong. I apologize for the confusion. Oh, you think I didn't try this? I tried this. This doesn't work. See, this is a language model. It's statistically finding stuff where where these sorts of words matched up, and it's giving what the probable answers were based on who knows what it sucked in. Examples, Stack Overflows. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this in just search, because this thing just keeps leading me down this primrose path. I mean, the amount of time I'm spending to try to correct it with everything I know doesn't quite work. I'm going to stick this straight in here and see what I get. Things you need to know. How about let's just talk about the pair class. KMM. Let's just do this. Kotlin pair. I'm just going to go with the original question. KMM. Let's just say Kotlin Multiplatform. Actually, let's do KMM specifically. This is for Objective-C. Kotlin pair mapped to Swift type. So here's the interoperability thing. Which I obviously have. Let's see what it says about pair. Nowhere to be found. All right. Let's get rid of this stuff. We don't need it. Result type's probably the same as a pair type. Unsupported custom subclasses of Objective-C classes. Tuple, pair, generic. Yes, not very helpful. Okay, so the regular search is, I'm having a hard time finding it. Wrong. This generates the same error. This thing just doesn't know. It doesn't get it. And neither do I. What happened there? What did I do? What did I do to change this? I said array of string. Gives me a different error. Cannot be marked because it cannot be represented as Objective-C. Oh, I didn't say Kotlin pair. Yeah. So I get the same error regardless of how I do this. Oh, yeah, syntax is all wrong. I guess I could have just done an undo because I'm just reverting this to the way it was. But I get the same error, so it doesn't matter. So let's copy this error. What about this error? So I can't use a parameterized type. But I don't think it even lets me use NSArray. It does. So I can't parameterize. I can't do this. Non-generic type. That's a non-generic type, but I saw in the header that it was a generic type. There it is right there. NSArray, NSString. Looks like a generic type to me in Objective-C. That's obviously not going to work because that's not going to like that. Right? I think I did try this NSArray string. Or did I try array NSString? Cannot specify non-generic type. So I guess I just have to treat it as an NSArray and then... Well, I guess I'm just passing it through. So what do I... Do I give a crap that the type is correct? Well, this does seem like ChatGPT gave me the right answer finally here. Didn't it say just use NSArray? Okay, I'm giving it points. I mean, all it did is really do what I would have done, which was search through all this and figure it out. I mean, I can say all it did. Well, that's a lot. Okay, it's doing a lot. Again, it's a good internet search assistant. It's really what it's doing. It's operating on a statistical model of data, giving me the most likely response based on statistics, but not based on understanding of what it's looking for. Am I being unfair to ChatGPT? Okay, do I care at this point? @mutant NSArray. Probably if I'm going to update the Kotlin Multiplatform to its latest version. This may be some of the stuff they fixed. Okay. So we're making some headway. And again, this is a shared facade. That's what we really want to do. And it's load strings as load files as strings. Do I pass in the @mutant? I think I do. Why is there a closed paren there? It shouldn't be a closed paren, it should be a closed bracket. And a semi. If I can find the key for it. All right, let's see what happens. Expected a type. Oh, it barfed on something. This is the sort of crap that starts to happen because of IDE caching, I'm guessing. I bet if I clean and rebuild, that problem will go away. So let's clean. Cache invalidation, one of the hardest things in software engineering other than naming. Or it'll give me a more specific error somewhere. This just doesn't tell me jack. I should still get that other error. Come on, tick it, tick it, tick it, tick it, tick it. Make it go faster, 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 faster. Yeah. See, that other error went away. It got confused. So in our implementation, because Swift structs aren't the same as data classes in Kotlin, well, let's keep in mind that platform functions, this is converted by KMM into a Swift structure. And in the case of the Swift structure, I have to provide all members. I guess the defaulting doesn't work. That's fine because we want to implement it anyway. So what am I complaining about? Nothing. And we did this alphabetically, so it should be here. So we're going to load files as strings. And we're going to take that. We're providing a lambda, which has the signature and provides a result. And I think we have to do Kotlin pair, right? Let's assume it's the same. No idea what keys I'm hitting. App mutant, and again, we're doing NS array, unspecified array of anything. And we're going to need to instantiate this Kotlin pair. Let's just assume. Let's see what happens. Oh, interesting how I put the to-do in there, didn't I? Yeah, default content set path. Good, I can get rid of that from here. It's literally a placeholder when I was researching how this works. Okay. And yeah, we're not doing anything right now. To do, implement me. We're going to say Kotlin pair. Let's assume there's a constructor, am, NS array. Can I just do that? Will that work? Nice if I actually spelled it correctly. Oh yeah. Second. That worked. Must proceed. Did I not sort this in the correct order? A did not. Escape. I am having keyboard spasms here. It's in the correct order there. See, it doesn't care about order when you actually name the members. All right. I think I don't need to build for iOS. I think it will regenerate on this side. Yeah, I get that sense. This is what's going on here. Okay. It doesn't. it does. Ew, it doesn't have that, does it? It has load files as strings. Load files as strings. Might be good to actually name this correctly. Load files as strings. This is what we call boilerplate. Load file. I misnamed it everywhere. Load strings as files, store strings as files. That's understandable. It's understandable that I'm dense. Load files as strings. And I'm guessing where I call it probably needs to be correct as well. Files as strings, files as strings, files as strings, files as string. Well, that's interesting. Why didn't that fail? Did it not get there yet? Ah, here we go. Okay, call with global app mutant. It needs to, okay. All right, so here's the currying thing. Call with global app mutant expects a function taking a singular argument of the app mutant that returns a singular result app mutant. In this case, we're returning more than one result. So, is there an uncurry? Curry would be taking a multiple argument function signature, well, in this case, a procedure, and currying it into a function that returns a function that takes the second argument. And I want to do that on the other side. I want to return something, but in this guy, I only want to act on the first thing. Is this monadic? Am I misunderstanding that? Yeah, so this function, call with global app mutant, right here. Give me a function that takes an app mutant and returns an app mutant, and I didn't do that. I will call that function I don't need to, I want to return the app mutant from this lambda, but I need to return the returned result outside of the lambda. How can I do that? I think that's a challenge for another time. See, here I store, and so the return is just the app mutant. Here, return is the app mutant. There should be a way to do this. It's something to do with the way the continuation passing is set up here. I'm passing a function. This function doesn't get invoked until the execution within here. Which all this really does is it just says replace global app mutant. That's all this expression does, is it just does this. All right, I'm not going to solve this problem right now. I'm just going to make that call. And do that instead. So, yeah, we're going to basically do a replace global app mutant. Which I believe we can do. Replace global app mutant. And instead, I have to use intermediate variable, don't I? Yeah, I do. I like doing things tacitly. Yeah. Yeah, this is why I wanted to figure out a way to get the continuation passing order figured out. So we'll just say let result equal this, which is what we want. Then we're going to replace the global app mutant. Oh, yeah, we want global app mutant. T dot global app mutant. We pass this in. The result is going to be a combination. We're replacing the global app mutant now with result dot first, and then we're returning the entire result. Actually, I don't have to say return, do I? Do I? So Swift, I think I just provide the result, not the return. I think I have to say return. Let's see what happens. And result first, result. Do I have to say return? I don't get it. Oh, I do, because these others don't return anything. And these return, yeah, I have to say return. Like not having to say return. Value of optional type must be unwrapped. Is it optional? How can it be optional? Why would it be optional? It's not optional. It shouldn't be optional. Why is it optional? Load files as strings, returns, load files as strings. Kotlin pair, NS array. Look at this, a pointer to a pointer to a function to a pointer to a thing to a thing. Well, yeah, this is this is the return type. I wonder, because Kotlin pair is a class, we're returning a reference to a class. I mean, it's a pair that has a reference to another class. And because this is Objective-C, this references can always be nil. That Swift is basically going, look, I'm going to treat this as a nillable. Because it's nillable means nullable. Well, nillable, it's still nil in Swift instead of null in other languages. Strange that elsewhere I don't have to do that. Is it because it's inside this pair? Must have something to do with this class declaration. Because there's a lot of other places I'm returning. Yeah, see, look at all these pointers I'm returning, and I don't have to unwrap these. Must have something to do with this. Let's look at the actual class declaration, or interface declaration, or whatever the hell it is. There, no, there it is. I think it's that. I think it's because of this nullable. Yeah, it's this attribute right here. It doesn't matter what type parameter I put in here. It's going to assume that it's nullable. So this is a byproduct of the way this particular class, I know it says interface, but come on, let's get serious. This is a class, not an interface. Yeah, that's a byproduct of this Objective-C code, how it got generated. Okay. I really hate doing this. I really hate doing that. Is that the correct syntax? No. Cannot force unwrap. Of non-optional type. Well, that's okay. I don't like doing that anyway. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do an if-let. Because if there's no app mutant coming back, which there will be, I don't want it to replace the global app mutant. So I'm going to do an if-let am equals result.first. I think I have to put that in there like that, right? I can then say replace global app mutant am. Let's try that. If our thingamabobby is not null, make it not null and pass it on through. Yeah, never use double bangs. Don't like it. Okay, are we making progress? App mutant KT. Right, the facade is taking care of this. I ain't doing that. So load files with strings in the facade takes one argument. Did we make it take one argument? Oh, we have string in there. That is incorrect. Single argument. Single argument. We don't got no string. We're getting strings. We're not putting strings. That looks more correct. Use an undeclared identifier. File spec. Because we did this. Why do I have to enter the name twice, or can I just do it once and it's going to say use the same one in both cases? I think I could do it once. Missing file spec in call. Huh? What? File spec, file spec. Do we not see file spec there? So look at this. This just shows how awkward this is. This bridging between Objective-C and Swift. Here's a standalone Swift function. I declare the parameter name once. I know there's two names. There's the internal name and the external name. In this case, it's the same name. I say file spec. Yeah, Objective-C hates me. It wants both. So do I have to do this? I seriously have to do this? I'm missing something. What am I missing here? Extraneous duplicate parameter. Do I have to put the, I don't get it. I'm gonna do what was done. I mean, look at this. File spec, SS. I don't get it. This almost looks like a compiler error. What am I missing here? Store string as file. This is basically saying you don't have to name it, you can just pass it. Oh, right. I see the problem. Yeah. Oh God, this drives me crazy. This duplicate parameter name, argument name thing, right? So parameter name versus argument name. Parameter name, argument name. I have to say file spec, like that. Because in the declarations of these functions, I basically said, look, no parameter name is required. This is the argument name, which is what's referred to within the function. So this argument is bound to this name within the scope of this function. And this is the actual parameter label used for named parameters. And it doesn't have to match. Which to me is just a crazy level of flexibility. They're basically saying, look, the caller can refer to an argument by this parameter name, but the internals of the function, the scope of the name that gets bound to the function can be different. Like, why the hell did they do that? Because they had some APIs that required it? It just, look at how much complexity and confusion it adds to the syntax. It's just a terrible idea to do that. But I bet this will fix the problem, because I didn't say, look, you don't have to give me a parameter name. And if I do that, that would solve the problem. In fact, I could do the same thing here, but this is the name that must be used by the caller. So the caller must specify the name, which it does here, specifies the name. Now, if I got rid of this and I just said load files as strings, let's see what happens if I get rid of the parameter names. I mean, in the case of a single parameter, load files as strings, okay, what files? I'm telling you what files. I'm just curious, although maybe file spec would be the better way to go, but let's just say I do this. I say, you don't have to give me a name. I'm going to pass this along, I'm going to pass it along, and none of that is a problem. Use of undeclared identifier file spec. What? Let's keep it in there and see what happens. Yeah, see how confusing this is? I mean, admittedly, I'm not an expert in Objective-C or Swift, but this is not straightforward. This is just a gaping hole in this language's design. I don't get it. What? Comma separating Objective-C messaging arguments. I copied this from here. So this is this weirdness about Objective-C, right? You give it the class name, followed by the method name with a colon and the first argument. And then subsequent arguments, you have a space and the name separating them. So this first argument, store string is file, notice the string has in its declaration, it has an underscore basically saying unnamed. So if I do the same thing here, if I unname it, now this is the internal argument name, I should be able to simply make a call without specifying anything, and it should be okay with that. Right? I don't need this. I'm really saying, is it the fact that it's on separate lines that's messing it up? This is kind of ugly, but I mean, I don't see file spec anywhere in here, so I can't complain. Undeclared identifier file spec. Yeah, look at that. Use of undeclared identifier file spec. Do you see file spec in here? I'm going to guess this is a cache invalidation problem again. I'm going to guess if I clean it and build it, it's going to be okay with it. Let's see what happens. Thinking, it's doing, it's going, it's almost there. Okay, it got a different error. Oh, this was that weird, like, we don't know what the hell this means error. Expected a type and file included from, wow, this is, okay, so I was right about this problem though. This problem went away the minute we did that. That's helpful. This is an example, precompiled headers. Build optimization screwing us over. It's doing some auto magic to precompile header files. It's Objective-C, obviously. And it just says expected type. Oh, here we go. Ooh, it didn't like the header. It didn't like it. This is not, oh, what? Oh, it didn't like our signature. Stand by, resuming. So this is interesting. This is a Swift generated header. Love generated code so much. So I declared shared facade. I made these members. What is it not like here? Rasha, Kotlin pair, expected a type. It doesn't think that's a type. Oh, probably because it's not a type. Because we declared it without the parameterized type signature, but the Objective-C header has the parameterized type signature, so it doesn't match. It's saying, look, this is not a type that I know anything about. C, NS array, NS string, star. Wow. Wow. Boom. Impedance. Impedance. Yeah, but when I try to declare it like that in Swift, it goes, nah, cannot deal with that. Can I type alias it? Let's see if I can type alias it. But type alias is just syntax sugar. The parser should still barf on it. Let's try. Try just for giggles. Type alias. app mutant string list and equals let's actually just give it Kotlin pair app mutant string list string array array string. So let's try this. I think this isn't going to work, and the compiler is going to have a heart attack. Kotlin pair app mutant array string. Same problem. So tabulate does not solve the problem. I think we just ran into sandbar in Kotlin Multiplatform. Not a use case that people use too much. Okay. We can't put collection types inside a Kotlin pair and have it converted. I mean, it gets converted to Objective-C, but when Objective-C tries to bridge to Swift, it's no, I can't do that. What is the answer? If anybody's watching this and they would put a comment on the video, please provide an answer. Because if I say NS array of NS string, I'm going to get no, 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 no. Cannot specialize non-generic type NS array. So NS array is a generic type. I see right there it's a generic type in Objective-C. But Swift says, no, it's not a generic type. And if I try array of NS string, which should be the generic type, it says it has to be a class. But it's not a class here. It's a parameterized type. Yeah. This is a problem. All right, this ain't working. So I'm going to put a comment in here that we cannot use this. We have to fix this. I'm not going to do it right now. On my next episode, I will solve this problem because I'm not going to use a pair type. I'll just create my own structure and return it. I mean, that's the simple solution here. This is why lacking true tuple support, both in Kotlin and in KMM. I mean, Kotlin doesn't have a true tuple. It doesn't look like something they're going to add to the language, which, I mean, so many other languages provide it. Erlang has tuples. Scheme has tuples. Kotlin, super advanced static type language, can't provide tuples. You got to be kidding me. Come on. Get real. Where's ChatGPT? Oh, wow. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I drifted. I think I need to wrap up anyway. It's dinner time. So when I resume, what we're going to do is we're going to do our own structs. But what was I raging about? I was raging about I can't believe that will Kotlin ever support tuples. Let's ask the chat Gipit. Does or will Kotlin support tuples? No. Right. I think people should be ragging on Kotlin for this. This is a major shortcoming. Kotlin does not support tuples. There's a more compact way to do multiple returns if you use the constructor of a class as the function. What? Are they trying to convince us that there's some kind of better thing? All right, whatever. Yeah. This is lame. This is lame. Yeah. Well, it's not my favorite language. It's better than Java. But yeah, that's the reason for it. All right, so when I get back, I will do the thing. But that's it for now. I wish you the best of luck.